The Miami Dolphins are in an incredibly tough spot. Tua Tagovailoa, the team's quarterback, the player everything revolves around, is out with yet another concussion. It's unsettling, especially given his history. So, what does Miami do now? Do they really think they can survive without Tua? There's a real, pressing question of whether the Dolphins can hold it together while he's in concussion protocol, and if so, for how long? And if not, who steps in? Who's going to keep this ship afloat? Right now, CJ Beathard seems to be the name on everyone's lips. We know one thing, it's not going to be Ryan Tannehill. He's made it clear that he's only interested in joining a team where he can be the undisputed starter. And, honestly, why would he come back to Miami just to ride the bench behind Skylar Thompson or someone else? That chapter's closed. So, who's next? CJ Beathard, yes, you've probably heard the name before. He's been sitting as the third-string quarterback in Jacksonville, a name that hasn't exactly been in the spotlight, but that doesn't mean he can't come through in a pinch. Miami has the resources. They've got the draft picks to make a trade, and it wouldn't cost them much to pick up someone like Beathard. He's not a top-tier starter by any stretch, but right now, the Dolphins don't need flashy. They need functional. Beathard, for those who might not remember, was drafted in the third round back in 2017 by the San Francisco 49ers. His stats? They're not mind-blowing. 60.4% career completion rate, 19 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, but let's face it, he's not coming in to light the world on fire. He's coming in to keep the team from falling apart. And don't forget his pedigree. His grandfather is Bobby Beathard, a Hall of Fame executive who was a part of Miami's glory days in the 70s. Maybe there's something in the family bloodline that could spark something for Miami. But it's not just Beathard in the conversation. There are whispers about Desmond Ridder and Zach Wilson too. Wilson is currently buried in the depth chart in Denver, sitting behind Bo Nix and Jarrett Stidham. The kid was once the second overall pick, and Miami could likely snag him for a late-round pick. The upside? Wilson hasn't had the luxury of playing with an offense like Miami's. Think about it, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane. It's a dream setup for any QB, especially one with something to prove. Maybe Wilson could thrive with those kinds of weapons around him, finally living up to his potential. But let's be real, Miami's got a problem right now. Tua's out, and nobody knows how long. It could be a couple of games, or it could be a month. Maybe longer. And every Dolphins fan is wondering the same thing, can we survive without him? Can Skylar Thompson get the job done? Let's assume the worst, Tua's out for 4 games. Miami has to face Seattle, Tennessee, New England, and Indianapolis. Could they win 1, maybe 2 of those games with Thompson under center? Because if they go 0-4, they'll be sitting at 1-5, and it's hard to see any way out of that hole. That's pretty much a death sentence for the season. But if they can squeak out a 2-2 record in that stretch, suddenly, the season doesn't look so bleak. They'd be sitting at 3-3, or maybe 2-4, and at least have a fighting chance to stay in the playoff hunt. Here's the kicker, right now, Dolphins fans are feeling hopeless. Can you blame them? The offensive line has been a disaster, the defense just got steamrolled by the Bills, and the starting quarterback is out. To make things worse, the schedule isn't doing them any favors. A trip to Seattle is tough enough, and then there's a primetime showdown with Tennessee, a team that, despite being 0-2, could easily be undefeated right now. Not exactly the kind of stretch you want to face when your quarterback situation is in limbo. And what if Tua is out even longer? If he's placed on injured reserve, he'll miss at least 4 games. There's a chance he could be out for 6, maybe more. In that case, Miami needs to bring in someone like Beathard. Not because he's the savior, not because he's going to magically fix everything, but because he's better than Skylar Thompson. Miami needs someone who can at least keep them competitive, someone who can make sure the wheels don't fall off completely. The situation is bleak, no doubt about it. And it's not just about the quarterback. Other players are affected too. What happens with guys like Bradley Chubb? If the team is sitting at 2-7 by the time he's ready to return, is it even worth it for him to rush back? Should Terron Armstead come back early to block for a team that's staring down the barrel of a losing season? So many questions. No clear answers. All we know is that without Tua, this season could spiral out of control real fast. Maybe Beathard can step in and steady the ship. Maybe Wilson finds his groove in Miami. But right now, the Dolphins are staring down a critical stretch, and their playoff hopes are hanging in the balance.